Good morning, all of you. I welcome today's expert, Mr. Prashant Verma, sir, and the other team members and participants. So, we are going to start the session. So, I welcome Professor Ronak Vasi, sir, to introduce our expert. Ronak Vasi, sir, please.
Thank you, Ghanshyam sir. Good morning, dear participants. Behalf of BVM College and Atal FTP, once again I welcome you on the last day, 5th day, session 1 on the topic of e-textile and smart clothing by our eminent speaker, Mr. Prashant Verma sir. Sir is doing consulting in the field of technical textile, smart clothing under the tag name of Kamal Tech. Also having more than 12-year experience in R&D, NPI, project management, and production of technical textile and wearable. Sir is currently working on smart clothing and wearable product for fitness, healthcare, personal protection, and various applications. Sir was previously associated with the Honeywell and Irwin Limited and having 12 patent application under his name and 2 in grant phase. More than that, Sir was gold medalist in BTech Textile Technology from MS University Vadodara and also gold medalist in Master in Fiber Science from IIT Delhi. I welcome you, Sir Prashant sir, on this occasion. Prashant sir, please, mic is to you.
Thank you, Ronak ji. Thank you, Ghanshyam ji. Thank you for your kind introduction. I hope I am audible to all of you. If there is an issue in the audio, you can just message on the chat. So it's the last day of the FPD program, and I think by now all the participants would have gone through a lot of exposure to different technologies in hardwares, in softwares, in data analytics, and various aspects. And even in, I think there are some sessions in PPE, wearables in PPE and all. So I think they have got a very good exposure in all this domain. The topic today which I am going to present is more on a textile side. So I think it will help you to get a perspective, a different perspective also, which is also an important perspective when we talk about wearables. So let us see what we have in store for you today. And I hope it would be fruitful and useful session for you. Can you all see my screen? If
Yes,
anybody can confirm. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so as already introduced, the topic is e-textiles and smart clothing. And basically what we are going to cover today is more of how these textiles are important for wearables and how we can use them, how we can work with them to create wearables. So the first question is why we want to talk about textiles. So basically, if you see, textiles are the oldest wearables which were used by the human race. So almost some research have claimed that it's almost dates to 100,000 years ago. And now you know the scenarios, how the trends, how the fashion are changing in the recent times. But over this period of time also, over this long period of time also, what has happened is that a lot of focus was only in terms of either reducing the cost of the products or reducing the maintenance of the products, so that you don't have to maybe iron it or like those, or it becomes very durable, so it lasts long and all. So these were the focus points during these years of development. I would say like a century, from a century, 100 years or so. So this is and obviously a lot of emphasis was given on the comfort aspect also. But when we talk about smartness in textiles, there was a little bit lag. There have been already a lot of research and research work going on, but there has been a little bit lag in terms of textile being used in wearable compared to the hardwares, the watches and all which are there in the market. So we'll go through it and have a look at it, how the scenario is and how things can change and what are the possibilities. So when we talk about textile and say why textile, so there are a few advantages when we use textiles. So first is, if you are designing any kind of wearable using textiles, or it's a textile based wearable, the first thing is it has a soft feel and it is comfortable to wear. So sometimes for some people they would not like to wear watches. It's something they would feel it's bulky, or it's something when they put their hand somewhere it will feel hard and all. But textile is something which is soft. Again, it's very flexible, so it does not hinder any kind of motion which you want to do. So like if you're doing an exercise, or you're doing office chores or household chores, you can do that easily because these are flexible. And one more advantage is that for wearables, obviously to be worn on body, the textiles give the advantage of being maximum coverage. So almost the complete body is covered with textile, obviously excluding your head, most of it. Otherwise, if you see feet, so you will have socks, trousers, and then you have shirts. For ladies, it's skirts and also. So that's where these are the advantages when we are talking about textile-based wearables. Now coming to the disadvantages. So when we talk about wearables, there's a lot of electronics involved, a lot of communication involved, and then these technologies to an extent are not very much weatherproof. In a sense, if you want to have something compact, making it weatherproof is difficult. Obviously, you can have a big box and all, and then you can make it weatherproof, but that doesn't work for wearables. So the disadvantage here on textile side is that dimensionality is not stable. So for hardwares and electronics things which need very high precision, which need proper dimensioning, hard surfaces and all, this is not a very suitable kind of a material. So that's a disadvantage. The next thing is, because these are worn next to skin, and a body generates a lot of perspiration when you're doing some kind of activity, you have a lot of soiling of the clothes and all. So this clothing we will have to wash anyhow. So again, when I said weatherproofing of electronics and all, so this is a concern where whether the batteries, whether the electronics circuit would be able to sustain this kind of washing. And then again, one more advantage when it comes to practicality is the sizing. So let's say if you are talking about a wrist smartwatch. So smartwatch is like a one size fits all. You have multiple locations for adjusting the watch. But if you are designing something in textiles, you will have to take care that there's a different body sizes. So like if you're designing a vest, you will have to take care that there's a small, medium, large, and everything fits, because it's difficult to get single size fit all, because in terms of aesthetics also you have to take care in textiles. So let's quickly have a flash course on textiles for the participants who are not too much aware of the textiles. I've tried to keep it very simple. So let's have a look. And if there are any question in between, you can just post it in the chat, and I would be able to answer that in between if you like. Sorry. Okay. So we are talking about this textile flash course. So basically, when we talk about textiles, it starts from either a synthetic polymer, let's say like you well known are polyesters, nylons, or natural fibers, which is like cotton fiber, which is everybody knows about it. So once we have this fiber in natural or synthetic form, we go for fiber extraction. Basically, what we are doing here is we are extracting meaningful fibers, and that can be processed further. So this, if you can see, these are straight and parallel fibers of a certain length. So this is done by the process of fiber extraction, and in synthetic terms, it's done by melt spinning, or different kind of spinning techniques are there. Then these fibers are aggregated together, and they are twisted to form a long strand, which is generally referred to as yarn or dhaga or whatever in your language. So this becomes now a long strand. once this long strand is available to us, what we do is we do a kind of a gridding, an interlacement process, which can be called weaving. So there are two types of fabrics, and you already might be knowing. So one which is like in trousers and all, those are woven fabrics, and that is done through weaving. And the t-shirts which you wear, these comes from knitting process. So these are more stretchy, more flexible and all. So these are the two process of aggregating all these yarns together and trying to make a structure, which is a 2D, almost 2D structure, although it has a third dimension, but we don't generally talk about it much. Once that fabric is ready, you will have to do some kind of finishing. You have to do some kind of coloring. So that coloring process is done. You get a finished fabric, and post that you do cutting on the fabric and sewing on the fabric. So I think most of you are aware some kind of sewing machines are already available at your homes, or might be in the previous generation. So the cutting sewing happens, and then you create a garment. So that's how the whole cycle of textile works. So coming to e-textiles. So what is e-textiles? So very basic definition, and if you go by definitions on internet, there are a lot of definitions, and there's a lot of misinterpretation also. A lot of people calling a small patch attached as a e-textile or something. So there's a lot of confusion there also. So we've tried to keep it simple. Thing is, you have a textile, maybe in terms of yarn, or maybe in terms of a fabric form, or maybe in terms of a garment form, and then you add electronics to it. So let's say it's a battery or a wire or a sensor or an actuator or a controller. And once you embed that into the textile, we would generally refer it to as an e-textile. So let's see what's the example for this. So as I already mentioned, the process of weaving, where you are having two different set of yarns in two directions. So like one, if you can see, this is, let me just put a pointer. Yeah, so if you can see, this is the yarn in one direction, and then there is a yarn which is interlacing. So X and Y directions are there. So here what has been done is we are just using an optical fiber, a polymeric based optical fiber in the process of weaving here. And what happens is now it is integrated in a form of a fabric. Once it is integrated in the form of fabric, you supply a light from one end, and then basically at some point where the bending is enough, the bending on the optical fiber is enough, some of the light, because of the angle of reflectance, would escape out of the optical fiber, and that would show on top of the fabric. So this is how this is an example of how you embed an optical fiber and a light based system into the textiles, and this is an example for an e-textile. So as you can see in this picture, optical fibers have been woven with the conventional fibers, and you can see that there's diffusion happening at certain places. So these are the places where there's a diffusion happening. So this can kind of give us an aesthetic look. So this is also like an e-textile, example of an e-textile. And smart clothing. So what I have done here is I have made a small distinction. Generally, a lot of people would categorize, because like clothing is also a part of textile. So e-textile would again cover the smart clothing, but I've just kept it separate here for the sake of more clarity, because e-textile can be used in a lot of different applications. So for example, the slides which we just saw here, this can be an aesthetic application. It can be a carpet on the floor, or it can be some automotive fabric on the seat of your car. So that is not a clothing application. So that's why I've categorized this to an e-textile application, and I have kept the smart clothing as a separate thing. Smart clothing is basically when you embed electronics into the clothing. Okay, so whenever you are having a wearable on your body, that is categorized in a smart clothing category. Obviously, it has to be a clothing. So clothing, embedding electronics, again similarly, you have batteries, wires, sensors, actuators, and controllers, and that's one way of making the smart clothing. The other way of doing it would be you have an e-textile like the one which we saw earlier, and then you make a garment out of, or clothing out of it. So that was also be a way to create a smart clothing. So again, this is embedding electronics into the clothing. So here what you can see is on a piece of clothing, a bunch of optical wire has been sewn with the help of a needle and the sewing threads. And so some kind of pattern is being made on the garment, so that we can have a fancy or an aesthetic garment. So let's see what can be done on these things. And by the way, all the pictures and the links are there on the bottom. So at any point of time you want to go and check the details of how these things have been done, you can check it out there. So depending on your creativity, you can create fancy aesthetic dresses with this optical fiber. So here you can see the pictures where the back of the garment, there's a light source which is obviously not visible here, and then all the optical fiber bundles are aggregated there, and then they originate from the back, come over the shoulder straps from here, and then they form some kind of frills. And these are obviously, this is an optical illusion to a bit. So these are capturing a slow motion kind of a picture which has a multiple dimension to it. So these kind of things, this kind of creativity you can obviously do in textiles. And then if you say, if your taste is not like this, you don't want to go for such fancy things and all, you want to be like more sharp and more smart, then you can go for this option. So you can see in this suit, you can see a couple of highlights here. So one is here, and then one more is here. So what is done is, here we have embedded the electroluminescence wire into the dress. So these electroluminescence wire, basically they illuminate when they are supplied with a current, and that's how this kind of an aesthetic has been created. So now let's look at some of the products on smart clothing segment. So this will give you an idea of what actually is there in the market, and obviously we will, as we progress, we will determine what are the possibilities, what are the things we can do. So that first one which I am sharing, and maybe if there are wearable enthusiasts, you already might be knowing it. So this is a project Jacquard, which was done by Google in connection with Levi's. So this is basically a jacket, it's a denim jacket. And in the denim jacket, what they have done is they have integrated the conductive yarns in the cuff. So in this zone, they have done some integration of conductive yarns. Obviously, it's not visible because they want to conceal it, and it's a fashion product. That's why. So you have a bunch of conductive yarns here, which are connected to a PCB or a MCU controller, what you call it. And then if from each of these yarns, the data is sensed, and based on the capacitance value around this sleeve, you get some kind of gesture. So the gesture is detected based on the capacitance value of the grid, and then that gesture is passed on to a communication device. So this would be your battery as well as the microcontrolling device, which will just dock inside this portion. And once that is done, a communication would be established with your smartphone with using a Bluetooth low energy protocol. And then a lot of things can be done. For example, if you are driving a bicycle, you want to disconnect to a call or cut a call which is incoming, you can just wave your hand on the sleeve of the other arm, and then that gesture would be detected, and then this Bluetooth communication would tell the device, smartphone, that we want to disconnect the call or you want to change the music track. So this is how this product has been designed. So this is a commercial product by Levi's. Next here is a product which is from Hexoskin. Hexoskin is one of a Canadian-based company, and basically this is a vest for monitoring body vital. What this has is a stretchy kind of a vest, so it's a body fit, body hugging kind of a vest, and they have electrodes in this concealed inside, and obviously this is again concealed for the fashion purposes. And then you have again a monitoring device. So this is again having all your battery supplies, all your MCUs, microcontrollers, and communication devices. and you have LEDs and buttons to operate it, so some kind of indication is required and all. They have used some kind of a cable. If you can see here, there's a cable which is connecting the electrode to this device, and then this device can be docked in this pocket. There's a smartphone app through which you can communicate the data which is coming from this app, this device to the app. Next is on the SOX domain. So here, if you see, this is a SOX. This is designed by Sensoria. And in this SOX, what they have done is they have designed some pressure-based sensors. So if you can see one here, and so almost 3 sensors are there. And these 3 sensors are then, if you can see, connected by some conductive strands. And this is completely a one-piece sock. So this is not like stitched or something. This has been worked upon on a knitting machine, where you can supply different kind of yarns, conductive yarns, non-conductive yarns, base yarns, which are like forming the whole structure, black yarns for the front tip portion and this heel portion and all. So that is there. And then all these traces, if you see, they are it's not very clearly visible, but if you, they are merging on this top portion, if you see here. And this is the portion where you will have your again the hardware device, which will again perform supply battery power and do the communication and processing thing. So coming to baby wear products, so this for small babies has been designed. It's I think from OLED, OWLET, and this socks will basically monitor your baby. So sometimes, for example, a newborn baby, if you are a single mother, or maybe if you there's no one to look around, this is a kind of product which is useful to see whether how the baby is doing, and if there are any issues, right? So this will give you the oxygen levels as well as the heart rate of the baby. And also along with this, there are some accelerometer sensors embedded in this. So what happens is in the device, I think this is the device which you can see here. So if for example baby falls and all, so that fall detection also can be done via this kind of a device. This is a garment. If you can see, it's again a body hugging garment. This is designed by Athos, and the main focus of this company on this product is basically to cater the market of fitness, wherein you are also monitoring your muscular movement. So this is basically using an EMG technology, so which I believe you are now will be aware about this. So there are EMG sensors placed. So if you can see this, these are the docking position on the biceps here. On the other side, it would be there. And obviously, if there's a trouser, you will have that on the thighs. So these, what they will do, this they will monitor the signals from the muscular activity. And based on that, they would be able to give insight to a trainer that how much he has trained, or whether he has, whether he has trained to a sufficient level, and how his training is improving his performance. So those kind of insights are there given from this kind of a product. Okay, so coming to a more aesthetic based product. So this is a smart shirt which was launched in 2016 by Arrow. Arrow, I believe, is a very well-known brand in shirts, so you might be knowing that. So this is a very simple product. So what they have done is they have just put a NFC tag in the cuffs of your shirt, and based on that, they are trying to do this payment kind of activity, and some other communications wherein maybe you can change music tracks and all. So these kind of things can be done using your shirt itself. So now we have seen some of the products. We got an idea in terms of how these commercial products are there. And obviously there are a lot of products in the research domains, which I have not covered here. But there's a lot of research happening on these various kind of healthcare products, various kind of fitness products. And again, there are some scenario of vicinity tracking and all. So these kind of research are happening on this. But I just wanted to give an overview of commercial things, and obviously that will give you an idea on what kind of things are possible and what things can be used from, what information can be used from this kind of products, and then you can help in designing your own products. So now the other important aspect is.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
There are a few queries. These products are waterproof, as you mentioned earlier, that washing is to be done on this product. So there is some query in the chat box, if you can pay attention.
Just a minute, sir. I am in full screen mode, so I will have to just. Okay. Now I'm able to see it. Okay. So Mohanna ji has asked that are they waterproof? So yes. So these are waterproof. So let me show you that screen. You are able to see my screen? You are able to see the presentation now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So when you talk about this, let's say the Jacquard project or this Levi's this jacket. So these are completely washable. So there is no issue. As I will show you a demonstration later on also how they have made it. So that will give you more clarity. So obviously this is a denim jacket, so you will have to wash it. So this is washable. Generally the devices are IP rated to an extent, but it is not recommended for the device to be washed. So generally if you see a smart garment kind of a wearable, what you will see is it will be always in a two-part thing. One would be the garment or the clothing, and the second would be the device part, which will be attached, which will be detachable, so that during washing you can remove it. So as you can see here, it's removable. In this example also, when you see, this is also a removable product. So the device is removable. Again, it's IP rated to an extent, but they don't recommend to wash this along with the garment. These kind of textiles, what you see, the conductive threads and everything which are you see, this is completely washable, and they can last up to 40 washes, 40 normal washes, and maybe if you are going very severely on a washing machine, or maybe 30, 40 washes. So again, depending on the technology and how you kind of do some kind of protection here. This anyways, if you can see, this is more or less made up from a synthetic material, so it is almost a waterproof thing. These vests are completely waterproof. So waterproof in a sense is you can wash it. What I'm saying is, so you can easily wash it. The electrodes will not be destroyed or will not be affected. And again, if in a short application, you will have to have this. Okay, any other questions? Okay, it's not. Okay, Mohit had asked one question. I will just take it up. Good morning, sir. Can the customer let these smart clothes learn new gesture as well as they are predefined gestures? Okay, so these are basically predefined gestures. There are no new gestures. So what you can do is for a predefined gesture, you can assign a task. So that is the flexibility given to them. The reason for this is that in this kind of a product, there is also issue of interference. So what has happened is when they had done testing of this product, when Google did the testing of this product, so the accuracy of gesture determination was up to 60% for initially, for 60% by a robot or maybe a computer. So, but when, so for example, this sleeve was kept at a location and at a fixed place, and then an arm was waved. That's a computerized arm. So it's not a human hand. It's a fixed arm which was just waved to and fro like this, or any other kind of a gesture. So when in that scenario, what happens is when there's a machine arm, most of the capacitance and the conductance parameters are similar. Even in that kind of setup, the gesture detection was only possible up to 60 to 70%. But when it comes to human, because then if as a human, if I am waving, I will wave like this, or maybe at this level, or maybe it's very fast. So at that level, what happened is the gesture determination had dropped to almost 30 to 40%. So these were the initial feedbacks which they had received, and I think they might have improved this now. But that's the reason why they are not allowing any kind of a customized gestures to be added by a user. I believe that. I hope that answers your question. Let me quickly look if there are any other questions. Okay, Selva Kumar has asked that is the smart sock having flexible sensor and become part of fabric or embedded for pressure monitoring. So this smart sock which we had seen here, this is basically it becomes part of the fabric. So it is in plane of the fabric. So suppose let's say this is the plane of the fabric. This is the plane of the fabric. That smart conductive sensors would be going in that same plane. It is embedded in the same plane. Okay, so it's so it's along the plane, part of the fabric or embedded, as you mentioned. That's correct. Mohit has asked, sir, are the batteries rechargeable for such smart clothes, or there is a provision of recharging by using the body heat? So Mohitji, basically most of the device for commercial application which are in the market, they would always have a rechargeable battery. What people do is they try to extend the battery life. So it may work up to a week or so, and if you are not using it too much, it may work up to a month or so. But generally body heat kind of a thing, as I mentioned, there's a lot of research work going on, but practicality of those product is a little bit difficult in terms of, as I said, it has to be washable, it has to be, so if you give a clothing product to a person for 3, 4, 5 days or a week or a month, he would be very careful. But after that, he would be like throwing it here, throwing it there. So you have to take care of all those practicalities, and that's why a lot of research is going on in this direction, using body heat, using solar power and all, but not too much practical products have come in the market. A question is, what kind of material is suitable for antenna device? I would be covering that, so I will not take this question right now. Let's go back to the presentation. I think there are no more questions right now. So now we are talking about materials. So I think this would cover to an extent of the antenna question which was being asked. So let's see. So when we talk about the materials, what are the properties which are needed? So generally, what you need is something to be conductive in nature. Obviously, the conductivity would change depending on the application. So if you want something to be generating a heat, so kind of a jacket which generates heat, in that case, the conductivity level required would not be so much. So again, and if you want to have some kind of capacitance and all, so these would vary, but in general, there has to be some kind of conductivity in the materials which we are using for textile. Obviously, it has to be flexible, because the base material, which is textile, is flexible. If you attach something which is hard, it doesn't make sense. So, and then it should be washable. Again, it's obvious, and we have discussed something about that also. And it has to be durable to flexing. So if it is in a washing machine, or if you are wearing it, you are doing some fitness exercise, it should not happen that your circuitry cracks. So it has to be, again, durable, and then usable in textile manufacturing operations. So obviously, either you should be able to use it with the yarns, so somehow in the yarn processing or in the weaving or netting processing. So the material should be withstand those forces and the temperatures. Or if you are, let's say, doing some kind of heat transfers, then it should be able to withstand the heat and cut and sew. So you are able to stitch it, and those kind of things should be possible. So let's see the first category of the materials. These materials would be the basic ones. So we start from the polymers. So these are the conductive polymers. Conductive polymers, the examples are polyaniline, polypyroles, and this is a very big name. So we use the short form PDOT and PSS, polystyrene sulfonate. And then graphene. Graphene basically is not a polymer, but because graphene is used to an extent, I have just included it in this instead of making a different slide for only graphene. So the conductivity values of these kind of polymers are in the range of beginning of a semiconductor to the beginning of a metallic conductor. So these are not very highly conductive as good as copper and all, but they to an extent do a job of conducting electricity with small amount of resistance, and that should work for you to light up LEDs or any other kind of signal transmission and all. The issues with this kind of polymer is that compared to the polyesters and nylons which we wear daily, these polymers are having very poor mechanical property. So they will have to be supported. So basically what would happen is you would have a polyester substrate or a fabric substrate, which is the main load bearing component that would take the forces. And on top of that, you can do some kind of coating of these kind of conductive materials. One more disadvantage here is that these materials are also difficult to process. So oxidization happening during the use, and then to coat it also. So they are not very soluble in the solvents. So if it is not soluble in solvents, it's difficult to process. So that's why processability of these materials are a little bit different. Now, how we can use these kind of materials? So what we can do is we can do in situ polymerization on textile substrate. What basically that means in simple language is that you have a textile in a bath or a solution wherein you are generating the polymer itself. So the polymer, you have the monomers, the individual units in a solution. They will put the textile in that and do the polymerization reaction. What that will do is a part of this polymers would be attached mechanically to the surface of the textile. So then that way you are making a conductive fabric surface. Other way of doing it would be coating it on a yarn or a fabric, or using it in a film form. So film form is easier to use because film casting and all is easier for these kind of materials. And coating to an extent, again, having it in a solvent can be done on the yarns and fabric. Wherever you need any kind of a transparency along with conductivity, and I think ITO is being used a lot in the displays and all. So a flexible alternative to that would be a P-dot PSS kind of a polymer, which to an extent is transparent. It's not very clear, and again, depending on the oxidation levels and all that could change. But this is a transparent conductive film which can be formed. To an extent, graphene is also sometimes used for this kind of conductive film application. Graphene and carbon are generally used mostly in form of a conductive ink. So you will have some kind of inks, and I think nowadays conductive ink pens and conductive ink as such are very popular. Maybe some printers are also printing conductive ink. So that's where the graphene and the carbon particle kind of chemistry is used there. Going to the application side, we go for what we use generally is these kind of fabrics. Basically, when they are coated, so the complete fabrics become a 2D planar surface, become a conductive surface, and there they are using it for EMI shielding. We can also use it for analog signal acquisition. So you can also use it as an electrode, maybe an ECG electrode. Again, they can go in a flexible display. So a lot of work or research is being done using P-dot PSS to generate some kind of a display on fabric itself. Or you can use it for an aesthetic application wherever you want to, let's say, have an organic LEDs on the fabric itself. So you use P-dot PSS as a conductive layer which will be supplying the electricity to the OLEDs. Sometimes these are also dispersed in the polymers, commodity polymers. What that means is like when we are spinning or creating these yarns of polyester or let's say nylon, sometimes this kind of polymer can be dispersed in the melt, and then when you spin the yarns, you will have a small amount of this conductive polymer. Generally, it would not give a very high level of conductivity, but obviously it can impart some level of anti-static properties. So some charge dissipation can happen. Again, a lot of research work being done with these kind of polymers for making supercapacitors, for detecting the performance of plants and all. So a lot of work is happening. So generally, these polymers, if you see more or less, they are used mostly in research work, and the commercial products are very little which are in the market, because as I said, they have issues of processability. They are mechanically weak. So a lot of research work is being done to bring them to a level of commercial scale, but right now it is not mostly commercialized. I will just quickly check if there are any questions. No, there are not. Okay. Okay, so here is the picture of polypyrrole, which is coated on a polyester fabric. So the left side, when you see, and again, one point which I missed is, if you see this kind of conductive materials also give you a black surface. So aesthetically also, it is not very pleasing to have something only in black. That's why. So what here is done is that polyester fabric, which I mentioned, it is coated with this polypyrrole, and then there are some electrodes which are put here, and then what they are doing is they are trying to generate heat on this fabric. And if you see this SEM image closely, this is how the polymers, small polymer fragments are distributed. So these big strands are the polyester base cloth or the filament, and the small these particles which you can see here, these are the coated polymers of polypyrrole. Okay, this is a very common example you might have seen a lot on the internet. So using a carbon or a graphene based ink and printing it on the fabric. This is a knitted fabric, cotton fabric on which it has been printed. So this kind of a heat generated. So these are like long, generally when you talk about graphene and carbon based ink, they would not be used a lot in terms of conducting the signals because they have high resistance value. So these are generally mostly used in some kind of demonstration or maybe powering up an LED where I think small loss of current is still okay. But very small signal like ECG and all, this will not be able to transmit properly. So these are generally used more for a heat generating application. Maybe in a heating, in a cold weather, you can make heating jackets or heating suits out of this by supplying voltage and current to this kind of a structure. So next material when we talk about is a conductive yarn. So once so we are complete with the polymer, after polymer we have come to this yarns, and this is an important topic, or this is important material because the antenna things and lot of practical things which are there in the market right now are being done using this kind of a conductive yarn. So let's see what are the options available in conductive yarn.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, there are few questions. So I just making a participant unmute so they can directly interact with you, sir. For a
Perfect.
while, we'll have some query session, sir.
Perfect, no problem.
Okay, sir. So I'm making a participant unmute. Wait a minute. Yeah, participants, you can check your mic and you can directly ask the queries.
I will take a question from Mohit, which is already there. Yeah, please.
Sir, I have one question. Good morning, sir. I really love your presentation, nice presentation and explanation, sir. Sir, I have a doubt. Like, if the cloth gets torn or there is a scratch due to some accident or something hot gets spilled over the cloth, like hot water or coffee or tea. So, what happens in this case? Do we need to discard these clothes or we can still use these clothes?
See, the idea, it's a very good question, and a very simple answer to it is, if the cloth gets torn, it's okay, but the electrode or the thing, the conductive trace, what you are using on the cloth, it should not get torn. If that happens, then generally it will have to be thrown because these products are costly and they are limited, so there's no kind of a repair work which you can do on this. But generally, these products, when they come into market, they are tested thoroughly. So as I mentioned, even the conductive part of this can go up to 50 washes. So generally they would not tear off. And if you notice about synthetic polymers like polyesters and nylons, these are very tough kind of formats. So nylon is even tougher in sports textiles. We use a lot of nylon. So that's why they use it, because they are highly abrasion resistant and they generally will not tear off. And then there's a kind of a give in the structure. So because of a give in the structure, they will generally not break or tear off. They will just give and then come back. So it's a stretch and recovery process. But obviously, you're right. If you are able to break the traces or something, that product is gone and it's very difficult to mend. So you will have to just throw it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Understood. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other question, participants? Okay. Okay. Let me continue then. So we were on this topic of conductive yarn. So yeah, what are the options we were talking about? So first one was stainless steel yarn. So stainless steel, it can be processed into very fine strands, and you can make yarn out of it. And believe me, they are very flexible. And obviously, the conductivity level is not up to the mark of copper, but obviously it's similar to what you get in stainless steel or an iron kind of metallic structure. So these again stainless steel yarns are available in two forms. One form is filament. Filament is something which is a continuous strand, so there is no disconnectivity. And the other thing is the fiber. So if you see cotton, cotton is a kind of a small fiber. If you open up a cotton ball, and again you can have the steel in form of a small fiber. What is done is these small fibers are then combined and twisted to form a linear strand. So again it would be completely conductive. The only thing is it would give some kind of a softer feel, because a yarn which is made up of small fibers, it will have some kind of a bulk, and a bulk will give some kind of a softness. So depending on what you need, you can go for a filament or you can go for a spun yarn. So stainless steel is available in both forms. Then we have metal coated polymeric yarns. So the most popular in these are silver and copper coated nylon. So you have a base of a textile which is stretchable, and again it has a good durability and all. And on top of it you do a coating of silver metal or a copper metal. Silver is generally used because the oxidation issue is not there. Copper has a lot of oxidation issues, so it's very difficult to use, or you have to use some kind of a coating on top of that. Then we have metal doped polymeric yarns. So again, similar to what I had mentioned earlier. So these silver small microparticles, or maybe silver salts, copper salts, or these kind of things, or even carbon particles. These are when we are spinning the yarn, which is like some kind of a plastic molten, like a juice you can call it. And then when you are spinning it through a spinneret like a shower, and that time you just put it there, mix it there. So then when the filaments are made, you have embedded in that filament or in that yarn, you have embedded silver, copper, or carbon based particles. And this will provide you conductivity to a level, but obviously not, this will more of an anti-static or charge dissipation kind of an application. Then there is a carbon yarn, and it's a very popular yarn. Carbon yarn is basically now used almost everywhere in a composites, which are very high-end applications. Here there may or may not be, but the conductivity level is very less, and I think this would be used more as a resistance kind of an application. So coming to the features of these conductive yarns, so generally the conductive values are almost near metallic, except for carbon and doped yarn. And they have very good mechanical properties because the core itself is a textile or a textile polymer. Commercially availability is very good, so you can easily get it. Obviously they are costly, but you can easily get it, and then you can start playing around it instead of worrying too much this film will break or this chemical is hazardous or something. So it's very safe to use. And then obviously, as I already mentioned, there is a high cost to it because the conductive materials like silver, which are more durable, silver is costly metal, so that's why it is a more costly affair. Before proceeding, I will just check for a question. Okay, there are none. If you have any question, just let me know, or you can interrupt me in between. So this here is a picture of a carbon filament. What you can see, these are, as I said, generally used in composite application, not too much in variables, but to a level you can check the conductivity, in what ranges it falls, and maybe you want to use that as a resistance or something in a circuit. So these are possible. Again, carbon filament is also costly because of
Sir, there is a
yes, please.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
No issue.
Question is from one of the participants that you were talking about the coating of silver in cotton yarn, and participant want to know the thickness of silver coating layer in cotton yarn to have a good performance.
Okay, so I think this has come from Rachel. So it's a very good question, and as I mentioned, these basically the coatings which are done here. Okay, I will show you the yarn also, don't worry. So okay, let me answer that when I show you the picture. So please wait for a minute with 30 seconds or so. So this is a carbon filament that is completed. This is the picture of stainless steel yarn. So if you can see, this is the stainless steel yarn, and it's wound on a bobbin, so it can be easily used in a structure. And okay, so I think this is the question. This is a silver coated yarn picture. So if you can see, there are couple of forms here. Now, just to clarify, Rachel, the thing is that these are basically not done on cotton. These are done, as I mentioned, already generally on synthetic filaments or fibers, which are like polyesters and nylons, because of their durability and the ease with which you can control the diameter and all the aspects of the fiber. In cotton, it is very difficult to have this kind of thing, and because of ununiformity, it's a natural fiber, so it is difficult to control the uniformity. There are a lot of hairiness. So if you see a yarn of a cotton, you will see a lot of small hairs coming out. So in such a scenario, it is difficult to process those kind of yarn. Again, there are issues with cotton in terms of being more hydrophilic. So it absorbs water easily and all. So that also hinders the process. Synthetic filaments or synthetic polymers like polyesters and nylons, they are not so much hydrophilic in nature compared to cotton. So that's why it's also easier to process. Now, the thickness of the coating, I am not exactly aware about the thickness. It would be in some microns, and this is generally done by few companies which have these products, which are also to a level patented and secret. So if you see, there are not too many companies who are making it. There are only few companies in Germany who are doing this precisely. Also, I'm not aware too much about a Chinese supply on this kind of a yarn, but obviously a lot of Chinese supply you will find out, or stainless steel yarn, these are very common. So the exact coating thickness, I would not be able to tell you on this, but obviously the conductivity level, when we are talking about, this is almost close to near metals. But again, because this being in a thin strand form and the coating being very thin, what happens is the resistance level would be falling in somewhere around 1 ohms per meter. So if you take a 1 meter length of this thing yarn, you would get 1 ohm resistance value. So this is how generally the things are, the specifications are mentioned in this industry. So if it's a fabric, you will have resistance per square. So it's a square area. What is the resistance between 2 points? And then if it's a yarn, it would be a resistance or ohms per linear meter or a linear centimeter. So as I mentioned, it falls in the range of 1 ohms per 1 meter, and it can go higher or lower based on what you need. So it can go higher on the like say 3 or 4 ohms, and sometimes it goes lower also. So 0.5 ohms is also possible per meter. I hope that answers your question. Silva Kumar has asked that he has a question. Okay, so is it require insulation over the metallic coated yarn? Okay, so again, there are two possibilities here. With silver coated yarns, which you can see here, you would not have to use a kind of a coating, because that oxidation issue is not as much prevalent as in copper. But if you are using a copper yarn, you would have to coat it on top of it. Now the issue is, if you do a coating on top of this kind of yarn or a conductive structure, it would again become insulative. So it will become like a wire again, wherein at both the ends of the wire you can do soldering, or you can do some operations to connect it, and that conductivity would happen only at the two ends. But throughout the length, it would be an insulating. Now it can be an use case where you want such kind of a point A to point B kind of a connection, and that is possible there. But let's say if you want to generate an electrode from this kind of yarn, in that case you want to have the complete yarn to be uncoated and conductive, and that's where generally, as I said, a lot of people use silver because it comes in both forms, coated and uncoated form. And obviously uncoated forms is having good level of conductivity. So it goes both way, and again depending on the material, you will have to coat, or you may not coat on that. I hope that answers the questions. Did it require? Okay, I think there are no more questions right now. So we are done with the material. I have tried to cover the broad spectrum so that you get to know what are the possibilities in terms of materials and what can be used. And now, so there would be a lot of research in other polymers, or there would be some other type of different yarn also, but they are used to a lesser known extent. So that's why I've not tried to cover everything. I tried to cover something which is more practical and more useful. So now we will come to the technologies. So material is done. What kind of materials we can use for smart clothing? Now let's come to technologies. What kind of technologies we will use when we want to make smart clothing? So here I will apologize because there are some videos, and I believe that this would not broadcast very crisply, but please bear with me, and I would try to give a commentary on the videos so that you are able to at least understand a bit. So the first one, what we are talking about here is a fiber blending. So as I mentioned, when we're talking about cotton and all, or maybe even synthetic fibers, they are available in two forms: small staple length, small fibers, and then continuous fibers. So when we're talking about small fibers, what we can do is small polyester fiber we can take, or small cotton fiber we can take, and along with that we can take a conductive fiber, which can be like something doped with carbon, or maybe something coated with silver, or something coated with a copper. These two, what we can do is these two fibers, small fibers, we can put in a process where these are mixed together. So whenever we make a yarn, so before that we mix different fibers if needed. So we mix these different yarns together, different fibers together, and then create a yarn. So what will happen is that yarn will have a property of both cotton or polyester, whichever is the base yarn, and the conductive this thing. So you will get a hybrid property which can be done in the yarn itself. So let's have a visual how this fiber blending happens. So what you will do is you will put different type of fibers. So let's conductive and non-conductive, or conductive and the base cotton together, and then these are mixed together in the process. So this is a fiber blending process, which is the start of yarn manufacturing, one of the steps in yarn manufacturing. So this is what will happen is it will go and take fibers from all the different kind of bales. It's called bales here. So again, your conductive and non-conductive, both the fiber will be stuck here, and they would be mixed and blended together. So once the yarn is made out of it, it will be like a blended yarn. Was this video visible? You were able to see it, or there were a lot of issues? If anybody can just let me know. So,
Yes, it was clearly visible.
okay, that's great. Okay, so now this, what you can see is this is a yarn which you make from small fiber, or it can be made from the spinning process also. So this is the continuous yarn, is basically a continuous strand of this thing, a polymer. Again, what you can do here is, so let's say you have a conductive yarn which is actually not very mechanically very strong. Let's say there's a scenario where it's not very mechanically strong, or the scenario is that it's a silver yarn and you don't want to have a very thick yarn. Okay, so it's a very thin yarn because of cost purposes or whatever purposes, you are going to use a very thin yarn, and because it is a very thin yarn, the mechanical property would not be there. So how do I use it in a garment or a fabric? Because when the fabric will be made, there are a lot of stresses on the fabric, and this will break. So what we can do is we can have two different yarns. So one is your thin conductive yarn, which is having a full conductivity running across the length, and then there would be a non-conductive base yarn. So suppose you want to make a polyester fabric, you take a polyester yarn, which is continuous filament, and then these two are wounded parallelly. And once these are wound parallelly, they will form a single strand. So these two different filaments would form a single strand, and once the single strand is formed, you can twist it. And what will now happen is that your polymer, the polyester base yarn would be providing the strength here, and the thin conductive yarn which was there, this will be providing the conductivity. And because the strength is there from this polyester, so you are able to use it in any textile process, or maybe in a garment itself, so where it will not break. So that will act as a support. So let's see this, how this is happening. So you can see there are 2-3 bobbins of yarns on the bottom. They are mixed together on this device, and then they are wound together. So this is a which we call is an assembly winding process. So basically an assembly of two different yarns. And after assembling, we do a twisting so that they are locked together. And after locking, we can use it in any textile process. So coming to the, I think again coming back to that washing question, and then how that Levi's jacket is being made. So this is a small video of basically from the Jacquard project itself. And again, what it highlights is a braiding process. and we will see, I think, the whole conductive grid and how it is washable being made here. So we will go through this video. Now, before that, let me just briefly explain the braiding process so that you can, when you are watching this video, maybe you are able to understand better. So braiding process is, you know, the shoelaces. The shoelaces which are there, they are made through a braiding process. Basically, what happens is, let's say 4 to 5 different yarns, they are put together and then they are twisted, and they are twisted to form a braid. And these braids would be hollow in between. So if you see a shoelace, if you cut a shoelace, there will be a hole in between. It's not a thick strand. Sometimes there are different types of braids. So this braiding process is just like doing a twisting of these multiple filaments in a way to form a shell. So now you will see. And what we can do is, when you form a shell, in between you can pass your conductive yarn. So your conductive yarn is now, first, one thing is it is protected from the environment. Second thing is it is not visible at all. So nobody seeing your yarn would say, okay, this is a conductive yarn. So everything has been covered inside. So let's have a video. Maybe you are able to realize it better. So you can see there is a center core yarn, and then you are twisting something around it to make a braided yarn, and top you get the result. So here you will never know that this is a conductive yarn, but basically it is protected, and the conductive yarn is held inside the structure. Again, continuation of that Google Jacquard project, this is the weaving process. So once we have the yarn ready, we want to make a grid out of it or interlacement out of it. This is a weaving process. Now, if you can see here, these are the grid. As I was mentioning, this is a gesture detection grid. So this is all conductive yarns here, and you can detect gestures by connecting all these different yarn to your microcontroller and reading the analog values out of it. And let's see the video how this is being manufactured. Okay, so here you have seen, so as I said, it's basically the woven fabrics are like a grid. So you have X yarn and then the Y yarn. So what they have done is to make that grid, see, they have put this at some interval, they have put this conductive yarn which they have made. And because it's a blue color, you will not be able to check, say it's a conductive yarn. Basically, it's, as I already mentioned, it's covered, the conductive strand is covered inside the blue yarn. And same thing they have done on the Y axis also. They have formed some grid here. And this again, now this portion actually can be used in a garmenting process, wherein these strands would be connected to, sorry, these strands, open strands, would be connected to a PCB, and the gesture detection can be done, and this part can be stitched onto a garment cuff. So on your cuff, you can just stitch it. And again, if you talk about washing and all, this is completely wash proof. So it's completely textile here. So you can even wash it, it's flex it, anything is possible. Now, an interesting thing, so when we were seeing that socks, these socks and all are basically made from a knitting process, and knitting process has a flexibility of two things. One is you can use different types of yarn. So in the same process, you can supply a conductive yarn, you can supply a normal base structure yarn. And the second thing is you can do designing. So any kind of patterns if you want to make, or even the shapes, there is a possibility you can make 3D shapes out of the knitting process. So there are different levels of technologies in knitting. I'm just giving you a brief idea about this knitting process. So basically, as I mentioned, different kind of yarns can be taken, and then they will be made into a structure. Knitted structure are something similar to a t-shirt structure, which we wear. Almost looks like a laser printer. So these are some new developments in the machine. That these are basically prototyping machines, which some of the fundraising Kickstarter campaign people are developing for easy trials and all. This is basically for fashion. This is not for conductive, but you can use this kind of a machine for making any kind of a conductive electrode or whatever, your circuitry itself. You can have a circuitry in the design of the garment, in the fabric itself. Okay, Embroidery, I believe most of you would be available. Most of you would know about embroidery. Sorry. So basically, it's a lot of people, a lot of ladies in a house also, they do some kind of embroidery design with the needles and all. Basically, it's a similar process. It's a machine-based process. What here is being done is on a base fabric. It can be a clothing fabric. You are making an electrode with the help of embroidery. So let's have a look at it. And they are using conductive yarns to make the embroidery so that it becomes an electrode. Okay. So this is how you do embroidery. So you had, I think you had seen some of the electrodes were already present there, and then this is the machine which can, if you can program, it will do the embroidery in a proper shape. So these kind of machines are also available. This is also a methodology which can be used for designing circuits on a textile substrate. Okay, just a minute. If there are any questions, I will take after this video session. So there are 2-3 more videos. Once I'm done with that, we will go for a question answer if there are any. Screen printing is, I think, you all know about it. Mostly, even the hardware people know that. Even the PCB, there's a lot of screen printing. Screen printing is also very popular in textiles also. So this is a textile screen printing wherein we have used conductive ink so that to form a circuitry. So you just put the conductive ink and use a squeegee, and this screen will be having the pattern which has to be put on the fabric. So this is how you can see he has made a circuit on top of it. Now once that screen printing has been done, this has to go for curing and drying at some certain temperature, and once that is cured, that fabric and the ink itself to an extent become a stretchable structure which you can wear, and then you can have the conductivity based on your traces. Uh, 3D printing is something, basically this is not, I would not call it too much as a 3D printing, but yes, the video had claimed that it's a 3D printing kind of stuff. It would be something like a 2D layering, but let's have a look at this. What is being done here is they have a conductive ink, and looking from this, I believe this is mostly a silver conductive ink which is available, and then they are using a 2D system of a 2D head which can go and form tracks, and so they are making something stretchable here with the help of this 3D printing. Okay, so now you can see that there is some kind of flexibility which is possible in this kind of circuitry. Okay, one more method which you can use is heat transfers. So heat transfers are basically kind of a labels of stickers which can be pre-generated from some kind of a conductive material or a ink, and then wherever you want in your production. So this is a production friendly operation. You stitch a garment and just put a heat press, just put a sticker and then use a heat process to bind it together, and then your product is ready. You don't need to have worry too much about it. So this is a simple process where you can use to make the garments. Let's have a quick video. So some heating elements have been, stickers have been generated, and they have already been pasted here. So by heat transfer, so I'm just showing this is a performance testing only. So you can see on the fabrics they have been attached, and then that's how the fabric become wearable, or let's say e-textiles. Sorry. So these were some of the videos in terms of technology. So now you know that what different kind of methods are possible when you want to design your own wearable, whatever suits you, what is your requirement. Based on that, you can configure or modify it. I will just quickly check if there are any questions. Okay. So there is a question from Mohit. So what about the interference such as electrical, magnetic, or when a person is traveling and there are jerk, but the person is actually not moving physically? Sir, can we iron these clothes? Okay. So first of all, interference, obviously, in any kind of even in a electronic circuitry, if there is an electrical interference or magnetic interference, it will be affected in a similar way. So there is no solution to that because the fundamental of the technology is same. When we talk about the jerk is not a problem here. Obviously, depending on the product design. So let's say you have so we saw this elbow. When you are stretching the elbow, there is a light happening up. So the jerk will not play any role there because that garment would be like sticking or maybe on the, almost to the skin. So jerk would not play a role unless until I am also moving. And basically there is a kind of a little bit resistance in motion. Okay. So unless until I am moving the elbow, this kind of system would not be triggered itself. So jerk will not play a role there. But when we are talking about, let's say, sensing of a small voltage level, like body sensors, so ECG, EMGs and all. So to an extent, jerk will always play a role. What we call noise would come because if the jerk is able to create, let's say, the motion between your skin, this is your skin, and your electrode interface. So if the jerk is creating some kind of motion artifacts between the electrode and the skin, then there would be a signal, a noise which will be introduced into the system, and that cannot be avoided because of the changing of interface. But if your system design or the garment design is such that even with the jerks, the electrodes contact with the skin is not moving, then in that case you have designed a system which is less prone to the noise, external noise. And that's why so it depends on the design, basically how well you design it, and that would, so those are the challenges in the market right now. So let's say for ECG, it's very easy to say put some electrodes and then get the ECG signals and all, but how do you design a product which is washable, which is let's say easy to, there's less noise ratio and all these kind of things. So these are the issues. Sir, can we iron these kind of clothes? So you can iron these kind of clothes, but it would be a low iron settings. But basically what people are doing is when they are making this kind of so when I'm designing a smart clothing, what I would do is I would prefer a synthetic fiber which doesn't need to be ironed. So I can avoid that completely. If I'm using like a good grade of nylon, I can avoid the ironing completely. That's out of the picture. So if you suppose if you imagine about a sportswear, a sports clothing, maybe some kind of vest, I have not seen, and maybe I don't know whether you have seen anybody ironing a sportswear. Nobody irons a sportswear. So that's how you can avoid that. Sir, where we can use this type of fabric? Rashmiji, can you be more precise which fabric you are talking about? I didn't get that. Sir, can you tell me how to choose specific technique for specific end use? As I mentioned, my job here is to expose you to different kind of technologies which are available. See, when I was designing one of my products, so I considered different technologies. So for example, I had considered inks. So I did some trial on screen printing. I have considered heat transfers, and I have considered fabrics. I have considered yarn. So either you have to, let's say, do some kind of trial and error, because see, the problem is with each different system, let's say ink, heat transfer, or let's say yarns or fabric, these are not same systems. This is not like a copper wire when you say ki this is the diameter of the copper wire, so itna conductivity hi aayega. It will not happen like that. All these systems have their own merits, demerits, issue of interference and all. So you, while designing, you have to logically first assume ki what would be my design, what I am designing. So first would be a problem statement. You solve that problem statement, then you go to ki this would be the solution, and then you will consider factor. Acha, this will be washed, yes or no? No, not washed. Then let me use this. Let me use that. Do I want it to be mass producible? Let me use this technology. Do I want it to be less costly? Let me use this. So there are a lot of factors. So I cannot suggest any factor for any specific application. But you will have to do trial error. Something working well for one thing may not work well for the other thing. Rashmi ji, okay. Anyways, Rashmi ji, if you can tell me what fabric you were asking, where we can use the fabric. Okay, can you please suggest application of such variable in accident detection and recovery management system? Accident detection, I understand. Recovery management system, are you, I don't know, you're talking about the health recovery part of it, or so let me consider that it's a health recovery part. So accident detection is possible, but accident detection, there are two things you can do here. One is a very simple thing where you can just have a hardware device planted anywhere in the garment or somewhere. So that hardware, based on the accelerometer data or something, you can be able to judge that some kind of accident has happened or not. That's a very simplistic way of doing it. The second way of doing it can be any kind of a injury, a physical injury, which results in the tearing or something of the clothing. So once that happens, you are able to detect, okay, something has torn, so maybe something has happened. The third one way of doing it can be that, as I mentioned, that pressure sensor. So if you have at vital organs or vital locations, if you want to push some pressure sensors and you assume that, okay, if that airbag explodes, and obviously it explodes on the face, so you cannot put sensor on the face, but just a scenario, if something happens, like maybe my side touches something, so there you can have a sensor, and if it impact is a 2 or the pressure sense is a 2 after a threshold is crossed, you can determine that, okay, some kind of accident has happened or fall has happened. Recovery management system, I would say it's difficult. People are trying to do it indirectly, so there is no direct way of doing it. Some people, what they do is they try to, if there is a wound, they will try to do monitoring of moisture. They would try to do monitoring of heat levels, and then they would indirectly determine, okay, this heat levels, this moisture levels, that means the wound is healing. So there is no direct method for this thing. Yeah, I think that's it. Sir, is there any electronic shorting occurring because of the sweating and all? Yes. So obviously, if there is an as I mentioned, there are two type of application. One is point A to point B, so it would be insulated. So there, in that case, sweating is not a big issue. But if there is an application which is like the complete conductive system, a patch or something, then you will obviously, if there is some kind of sweat, there would be some leakage happening, or there would be some noise, this thing. But what again coming to the design of the product, when you choose a base substrate, what you do is the substrate you choose is such a way where you do some anti-wicking finishes. So wicking finishes. So what that does is, as soon as the moisture or the sweat is there on your surface of the garment, it will just take it up and absorb by the garment itself. Once it is absorbed by the garment, it will go through the evaporation process and it will be shed off. So the amount of sweat which is accumulated is not so much that it is going to cause some kind of interference. Obviously, if you are having some electrodes and you dip into a swimming pool, obviously there's going to be a short circuit on that end. But yes, again, I said design of the garment and what scenario you are going to use. So there are some limitation to these products. Embroidery fabrics, okay, got it, Rashmiji. So embroidery fabrics is like, see, embroidery is basically not a fabric. So let's say this is my garment, okay, today. So I am wearing this garment. What you can do is, on this garment itself, I can put this on an embroidery machine, and today I can make a circuit out of it. So embroidery is a technology through which you can, if you want to make an electrode, you can make a circuit or whatever you want to do. So it can be done on a fabric. Now, where it is used is, again, as I already answered, is key depending on the scenario where you want to, where you think that the application you want to take. So accordingly, you will have to use it. Okay. Okay, thank you. So let me continue. We have, it's 10:17. Okay, we have some time. Challenges. So now is the boring part. So what are the challenges and why this is not picking up? So if you see, compared to the wish-based variables, these clothing-based variables are not picking up too much. You don't see too much of a clothing-based variables. And then here are some of the points for that. Price point. See, when you're designing something on a wrist-based kind of a system, as I mentioned, there's no different sizes. You do a designing once and the design is ready. You get the PCBs printed in masses, so the price is down. And again, when they started, they were just using accelerometer for some kind of algorithm processing. They were very crude. If you used to, if I, like I'm talking right now, moving my hands, it would be counting steps right now. So this how they were, but now they are evolving. But when you talk about clothing, it in itself becomes a big challenge, because apart from taking care of that electronics and your firmware, hardware, software, you have to take care of the whole structure. How I'm going to manufacture, how I'm going to integrate these two together, how to take care of washability and all. So the price of such products, because of an R&D and cost and itself being two component product, it becomes higher. So that's one reason why these are not very popular at this moment of time. But obviously, a lot of work is being done, and as I mentioned, these are the only products which we wear on the body. So clothing is something. So if you want to get something from the body, you will have to use a clothing-based wearable. Apart from obviously wrist-based things are there, but they have some certain limitations. Then a lot of people complain about usefulness. So even in fitness and all, what people see is after a certain time they think what is actually the use of this? Are they giving any kind of benefit? So that's why there are very limited products in the market which are able to give user a meaningful benefit, and that's why they are successful in the market. And a lot of them have died down because they were not giving anything meaningful. So giving a sensor data to a user doesn't mean anything for the user unless until you are telling him that you are this point you are going to get a heart attack or there is a malfunction in your heart. Unless until you are going to deliver an endpoint system, I think it doesn't make much sense for user. Durability is an issue, as we talked about it. So sometimes users feel that we have to take too much care about it. A lot of consumers have complained of personal security, so their data being, and this is common for all the wearables, and sometimes may not be stylish. So if the product designer has focused more on the technology and the technical part of it and not taken into consideration much of designing or styling, that can be a problem. Coming to the technical challenges, manufacturing techniques are challenges. There are very limited manufacturing techniques, and these manufacturing techniques, if you see, there are a lot of parameters which can affect it. So type of the chemistry of inks and all, the yarns and all, stretch and all. So there are a lot of things which are not like in a proper electronics. It's like a proper dimensioning, proper sizes and all. Here the things are stretchy, moving. So manufacturing is also, these are challenges. Again, one more big impediment which I would say is that the textile community as a whole, the industry as a whole, they are not much inclined to move in this direction. So they are more doing it to the conventional clothing and all, and that's also a reason. And lot of if you see the products also, a lot of people out of the textile domain, like Google. If you talk about Google, Google is not a textile company. And if you talk about Athos and all the other parts, the people from electronics domain are trying to get into it. Obviously, they have a good understanding. They have developed a good understanding, but there is no reinforced effort from the textile industry. That's also an issue with this clothing-based wearables. Again, too much data and data analysis. We have to do it. Variety of data from multiple sensors. What to do it? How to correlate it, and all. Lack of standards in the data security of the data, battery life and abuse protection. So battery life, anyways, is okay. But if you see clothing, people handle clothing in a lot. In a very abusive way many times, not everybody, but sometimes. So they will just squeeze it, they will just throw it here and there, it will be lying somewhere in the sunlight or something. So these are the technical challenges which we'll have to take care. I will take any questions are there, I will take it, and then we will go to case study. Sorry. There are, I think, no questions. Let me continue then. We'll pause for 30 seconds. If you want to ask some question. I don't expect much questions from these challenges and all slides. These are a bit boring slides. Okay, so this is the product I have worked on. This is the product which currently have been submitted in couple of funding projects with Government of India also. So they are under evaluation. So I worked on this product almost for a couple of years, and I'll just give a glimpse of it. So again, this is a product, and why I have chosen this. So this is a product which is related to healthcare and lot of and mostly related to ECG. So if you see a lot of products are being done in this domain, I would say there are a couple of reasons for it. One is this is an easier domain to crack. Second is a lot of information and technology is available in this domain. So that's why a lot of emphasis is done on this domain. And again, a lot of information can be inferred from ECG data. So that's why this was the approach. So let's see the problem statement. So basically, cardiovascular diseases are still the #1 cause for death in whole of the world. So heart conditions is very important. And even if you know that Sourav Ganguly, who being a sports person and a fit person, at the age of 48, he got a heart attack. So it's very difficult to detect. difficult to diagnose. A lot of precautionary measures have to be taken, and you never know who will get a heart attack. Okay, so that's an important problem statement here. So only way to determine that you are healthy and all is like maybe in a year you can go 2, 3 or 4 times and do your screening, and you can determine, okay, if it's your heart is in a good condition or not. So that's a way to be safer, but still there are some limitation to this process. So what we do, we have is you need a special equipment here. So if you are going for a 12 lead kind of a setup, you will have a treadmill and then a special setup is required. So this in cities, like people like us who have access to internet and all, I think this doesn't look like anything big issue. But when we talk about the rural areas or the villages and all, this is like a far-fetched scenario. Means getting ECG done at some village and all, it's very difficult. A need of a trained technician, so you will have to have somebody who is trained enough to know which leads goes where, and then what kind of analysis is happening, what kind of ECG is there, what is the interpretation and all. One more issue is that in females, it's difficult to put electrodes. So there's a privacy issue. So if the patient is female. One more thing is the durations are very short. So if you go to a hospital for screening, and a lot of people even I have seen is now a lot of hospitals have a ECG single lead or 12 lead ECG machine, stationary one, not a treadmill one. So they will just put it there, 12 electrodes, and they will do a snapshot of, let's say, 1, 2 or 5 minutes, maybe maximum 5 minutes. I don't think they do a 5-minute snapshot. And whatever is printed on that slip is, again, it's almost a 30-second kind of data. So these kind of short durations in some scenario can miss the irregularities which are not frequent. So sometimes what happens is maybe while climbing the stairs and all, you might feel that, okay, the load has happened and then there was some pain and all. But when you go to doctor, he sees, okay, everything is fine, nothing has happened. You might have also heard sometimes that people have come from hospital said that, okay, they are now fit, the heart and everything is okay, and then in few years that issues have happened. So this is the duration for which these tests are done are actually limited, and sometimes in some scenarios, for example, let's say you have been operated for a heart surgery. Now after that operation, a doctor would want you to continuously monitor your heart condition, at least if not more, at least for a week or let's say 2 or 3 days, to understand if everything is gone okay and something is not wrong. So this kind of scenario would require a long-term analysis. And because of these individual hospitalized setup and no data collection, AI and artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms are difficult to be used. And so a lot of data is there, but it's segregated, it's not being used. And because AI ML is not being used, influence of medicine and all this cannot be studied. So these are the basic problems which we see. Just quickly checking if there are any questions. No, thank you. Okay, so rethinking healthcare variable. So how we can make the healthcare variable. So this is the one which we have designed. We named it Hriday. So this obviously is a 3D mock of this. So you have a vest, you have electrodes in the vest, and again a device which is attached externally to the vest, which will be doing the processing and communication things, and then communicating with on a BLE protocol to a smartphone. And we have also applied for a patent for this in terms of the design of electrodes and how the garment has been made. So it's under review right now. So the concept is, again, it would be a lot of repetition because I think you might have studied a lot about ECG in this for 4 days. So making the clothes worn in day-to-day life as a smart. So whatever we are wearing daily, let's make that smart. So instead of adding something new to it. And continuously tracking your health without distraction. So for let's say 6 hours, 4 hours, you want to monitor yourself, and even you want to do your own chores. So for example, you want to do your office work, or let's say you want to do your yoga and you want to see how the health benefits are there, or maybe you are climbing the stairs and if you're complaining that at that point I'm getting some kind of issue. So those can be recorded. And the next important point is it can be made affordable, compact, and with a medical precision. So this was the idea behind this. So looking at some of the features, these are mostly aesthetic slides. I will just quickly run through it. So if you can see, this is how we get the signals on the smartphone. So we have a couple of things. We have ECG also, and we have plethysmography. So which is basically the performance of breathing. You can check how the breathing has happened. And this also can be useful to an extent, and we have not done the data analytics part of it. This is still being developed, data analytics part, but you can maybe use it for something related to COVID also. So what are the features in this? How we have differentiated it? So we have low motion artifacts. So there was a question, jerks and all. So with the jerks and all, we have tried to design this garment in such a way that the electrode and skin contact are as intact as possible, and that's why the motion artifacts are less in the signal. We can run this for an 80-hour of continuous monitoring of your ECG signal or plethysmography signal, whichever you want to use it. So it's the battery saving feature is also considered in this. We have used a 4-way stretch fabric, so it becomes comfortable for the user to wear it, and does not provide too much compression, and the motions are possible. All kind of motion are possible. We will try to use the latest Bluetooth technology so that data transfer rates are good, so we can go up to higher resolutions of the signals. Again, we have tried to use a standalone mode in the device, basically just to keep away the smartphone. So a lot of the time your wearables will not work if your smartphone is not there. But this wearable we have designed in such a way that if you want to keep your phone at your home, you can just keep it, and there are buttons on the device which you can use to operate it. It doesn't have a display, but you have buttons on the device which you can use to operate it, and then later on you can come back and want to sync something or see something, then you can sync it with your phone and then display it. So you don't have to carry your phone for this. Again, we have put the audio alert. So as you can see, these are placed on the chest, and that's why the LEDs would not be visible when the user is wearing it. So we have kept some audio alerts in the system. There's a live data broadcasting possible, and if time permits, we will try to have the demo for this, where we can broadcast the data live to the users. And right now what we are working on, and maybe from the college itself, if there is some help, we can work together also on this. So we are right now working on the ML part of it, where we are trying to analyze the data and determine the different irregularities. So I think there are 14-15 irregularities that we have figured out that there are, and there's a possibility of it. There's a paper from Stanford, which has research paper from Stanford, which has actually claimed that from a single lead data, what they have done is they are able to distinguish 14 or 15 different types of anomalies in the heart based on their ML model, and the precision of diagnosis was better compared to a real doctor. So they have done a comparison of multiple scenarios, and then the reports were given to doctors, and then the report was fed into machine learning algorithm, and at the end of the day, the machine learning algorithm was able to predict it better compared to the doctors also, because obviously machine learning has a capability of analyzing a lot of data. That's why. So that has been proven by the Stanford University, and now we are working to integrate this portion so that we can provide a complete end-to-end solution to the user. It is machine washable, and we have durable sensors. So based on some of the technology explained, we have made this. So quickly going through opportunities, mundane slides. So home diagnostics and treatments are possible with that kind of a system. So let's say you have been operated, you want to go. So let's say you have come from Middle East, you have come to India for medical tourism, done your heart surgery operation. Now you want to go back to Middle East, don't want to stay here for long. Under doctor supervision, you can go back, and then the doctor can remotely monitor you, and things are possible. Tracking fitness and training, lot talked about, lot heard about, so nothing much there. Pre-insurance checkups can be possible, wherein instead of just like, so currently if you go for a 50 lakh or 1 crore kind of insurance, you will have to go for a 12-lead ECG treadmill test and all. So again, if you consider that's a small snapshot, you want to go for a longer thing, you can go for this thing. Companies can provide it to the user. And I have seen some model, I think in USA, they are providing some kind of variables now for insurance checkups, that whether the person is staying fit or not. And if he's not doing fit things, then they are charging more insurance premium and also. These kind of models are also coming up. Let's see how much they progress. Telemedicine is obviously an option. And then we have sleep apnea monitoring. So because we have plethysmography sensor, so sometimes if during the sleep there is irregularity in breathing or there is a stop, breathing has stopped, then these kind of things can be detected instead of going to a hospital, because sleep apnea right now, if you want to detect, you will have to go to hospital, sleep there, and then for overnight, and then that data is collected. So those kind of things can be, the system can be modified and used for this sleep apnea kind of monitoring. So let's go to that live broadcast demo if possible. We have time, I think so. Let's do that. So this is the picture of the product, and you can see this is a vest, and this is a device which is there on the vest. And what I would suggest is, if all of you can, or most of you can, whoever it's possible, I will take the question later. I think there is a question from Rachel, and yeah, there's a question from Rachel. I will take that. Okay, let me take that first. Sir, in wearable devices, we attach an external device, say a sensor. Sorry, say a sensor to the dress, as you showed in the last one of ECG. For instance, if we fall down in the direction where the external sensor is placed, what will be the maximum injury caused by the sensor? So see, obviously, if you fall down and if the device is there, so device is kind of a plastic shell. So obviously there would be some kind of injury, because a hard thing falls on your chest area and all. There would be some kind of injury. But generally, that scenario is very highly unlikely, because the body itself has the knowledge that whenever it is falling, it will try to put a hand in front of it, most likely, unless until you are being tied at the back and then somebody throws you in the front. So it's a highly unlikely scenario, but obviously physically it's obviously possible. It will injure you. But okay, I think there is a, so sensors, when we talk about the sensors, so sensors are made from the conductive textiles, so they are flexible and washable. None of the sensors will harm you, do any kind of a thing. And even the beauty of the sensor is that they are antimicrobial in nature. So even long-term sweat and all, if there is there, then you will not get any kind of fungal infection or something. You are talking sweat and all, but anyways, you will be washing it. So sensors will not cause you anything. What will cause you a problem is this device, which you can see on the screen right now. This is a thin, small device, and obviously this will hurt. Question is, but these clothes will be very costly and cannot be used by the masses. How can we ensure the maximum people benefit from the smart clothes? See, I think these clothes, you are right, at this point of time are costly, and the major reason for this is because they are made in a very less volume. But what we have tried to do here is, and again, let's say I showed you a product of Hexoskin. Okay, if you remember, there was a lady with a vest. So, and they're holding a device. Okay, so these products are costly because these are being made in Canada. The fabrics are imported from outside, and they also put a R&D cost to it. But what we have tried to do here is, we have tried to reduce the cost by using local supplies of the material. Obviously, conductive yarns, as I mentioned, these are difficult, and only few companies involved are making. But somebody will have to take this up. As the volume grows, this cost will obviously come down. So if you give I give you a reference, compared to this Canadian based products, and we also have similar kind of features and all, but our cost is almost, you can say, 5 times less than them. So there is a possibility. And when you talk about the hardware itself, I believe now you know that with this wearables, lot of companies coming in them, the hardware actually cost is now very less, or you can say negligible. And even clothing and all, if you go, if you just give a get a ballpark figure, a smart vest in on an Amazon maybe costing you, let's say, 1,000 rupees, a good one. And then your this thing, what we call the hardware, let's say it costs 1,000 rupees again, something like a wristband and all. And then what you need is, you need to just put the conductive sensors and electrodes in this. So system, I think, can come within a range of 3,000-4,000, and then how you can market it and all. Again, if you go on volumes, this can again reduce. So I would say that, sorry, I would say that the cost can be brought down if there is a value in the product. I think we can do that. Another way of doing that would be, instead of using the whole garment, if you are not using multiple sensors at multiple location, you can just use a band which can have sensors at only specific location, and that band can be easily used and worn. So you don't have to deal with that manufacturing process. And I think there are a lot of band-based products in this domain. I hope that answers your question. Akul is asking, sir, what type of sensors are suitable for wrist ECGs and PPG monitoring? So if you want to take wrist ECGs, I would say that you don't need to go in this textile domain at all. What you can do is you can have the metal, because that can be easily integrated in a plastic watch. So metal based electrodes are easily possible for ECGs. And for PPG, you would anyways need an optical sensor. So I don't think any textile has any role to play there in that. Lot of work is being done on like skin wearables. So you have to just paste it on the skin. There you can use some films and some conductive materials, but again, it's again a thing of a research. So if you want to go for research and all, you can use conductive inks on some films and use those as electrodes. So that film can be like a sellotape, can be put on your on your arm, and then it can sense. Or even there are patches available right now which you can just put on your chest, and those patches would be able to give you ECGs. The issues would with that would be you have to take care is the contact of electrode and the skin, so that it is not giving too much artifacts. So I think again, depending on the scenario, you will have to take care of that. Okay, so let's hope this demonstration works. So I have just shared a link in the chat. If for whom it is possible, you can go and have a open this link. Meanwhile, I will just put the variable, and we'll try to demonstrate if we are able to get a live broadcasting. Okay, so I will just stop my webcam for a second.
Dear participants, mic control is given to you. You can unmute yourself and ask the question to expert. And even attendance link is also available on the chat box. Okay, you can unmute yourself and ask the question if you wish.
Okay, so if you heard the beep, so I think we have started a device. What I will do is I will also share my screen. Let's see how I can do that. So I will stop it, and then so for those who have opened this link on the web page, what I will now try to do is I will connect my variable with the application. Okay. Okay, so the communication has started between the variable and the mobile phone. Okay, and now what I will do is I will start monitoring so I will generate a hospital based like a report of an ECG from my variable, and at the same time it should broadcast also to the remote party. So I hope it does that if the demo works fine. So for those who have the link right now, you can see my live ECG, and at the same time, if you see I'm talking and the artifacts are less. If I do motion also, that there will be some artifacts, but it's still under control. So this is the thing right now. So the fundamental things are ready. We are just working on doing the machine learning part of it, integrating it so that it becomes a more useful product. So I hope you all were able to check that, and now that has stopped, because there's only 32 seconds of ECG which I've set in the duration of the application. If you want, you can go for longer also. So I think that is all from my side. If you have some questions now, we can take the questions. and thank you for patiently listening to me. It's 2 hours sitting and listening is a difficult task. Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really highly informative and wonderful session delivered by you. I have a few things, or rather, maybe, are you dealing anything with the military clothing or military wearable kind of thing? Because that is also many defense organizations in different countries are also doing the same thing. So, do you have anything to say about the military wearables?
Currently, sir, I have not done much work with the military wearables. We have tried to push this product. So this is also in discussion with some officers in the military, this product itself. But we have not got any specific requirements right now. I'm trying to connect with Dibel on this in terms of if they have any requirement, but frankly speaking, I don't have much ideas there. If we are talking about some variables in military, I think that would be something on the impact protection, if we can do something, or injury detection. I think there was some question on that, or maybe some kind of camouflage and all. So this can be something which is important. One more important can be, and it's very need of the hour kind of a thing, is like people working in Siachen in that high cold. If you can design some wearable which can on a lower battery kind of a supply, you are able to provide them heat for a longer duration so that they can withstand at -40 kind of a situation. So these are some of the scenarios which are there, but currently I have not worked with any of them. I'm trying to connect with them, but surely if there are something leads, if you want to discuss, I'm surely open for that, and we can take that forward. I hope that answers the question, sir.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, participants, if you have any query, you can
Sir, good morning. Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I'm Dr. Gandhi Mogan from Puducherry.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I have one query. Sir, these cloths are having so many sensors, integrated with so many sensors. All the sensors are wirelessly connected with the common node. Okay, so when we are wearing that device with the wireless related activities, is there any specific SIR related informations or any kind of specially made jacket which will suppress the radiation to our body, sir?
See, these when you go for the this data sheets of the devices, so there you will be able to find the for example, let's say yesterday there was a session where they were talking about different MCUs like ESP or Nordic and all. So they would be giving some kind of SAR values for them, so that you can find out from there. And if you want, generally what I have seen is people are not using it, and I don't know where the health related research has gone right now, but all the commercial products which are being which are being used, even when you say wristwatch or anything which you are wearing right now, or even the mobile phones, so these are being used I think since some time. So, and none of these companies have come up with anything in terms of shielding or something. So again, I am not an expert on the health side. There would be research which shows that okay, these are harmful, but I think in daily life we are using a mobile phone which is already having a Wi-Fi and Bluetooth communication, and I think most of the in gents or males, most of them are keeping it at very near to our vital organs. So I think so that's the practical versus research kind of a question. So that I will leave it there. But when you're talking about the shielding, obviously there are fabrics, as I said, polyester fabrics. If you coat with or in situ polymerize with pani and all, that's polyaniline, then you can create a fabrics which can create shielding. So these kind of waves will not then enter your body if you want to generate some kind of shielding products. So that is there. So one of my colleagues in IIT had done a project on this, and he had created a fabric. So what they used to do is that fabric is he would put a mobile phone, and on top of that, if he puts that fabric, then that phone will be showing out of reach. So if you want, that separation can happen. There are technologies, but generally people don't do it.
Yes, sir. Recently, I have gone through the one research by Professor Girish Kumar, IIT Bombay. So he has produced so many EMF related shielders, sir, for house as well as individuals' heads. And when you are sleeping in your bed, you can be separated from the nearby transmission from the towers. So different kinds of shielding mechanism he has introduced, so to protect ourselves. Like that, this jacket should have some kind of protection. I think so. So anyway, thanks for your information.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I think that's a very valid point. But as I said, I've not done much research on that side in the health issues on that. And again, practicality, what people are doing right now in the industry, maybe that's the wrong way of doing it. That knowledge is not there. But still, that's why a lot of people don't really currently care about it. So maybe some standardization should come up also in this area, which says that this should be a kind of emission, this should be the locations. So that is also not available. So this domain is actually growing, and I think as the masses increases, that standardization will happen, and the awareness will also happen in the people, and I think that would drive this kind of features also in the garment itself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question?
So do we have any more queries, participants? Okay, I think no more queries, sir. Professor Ronak, you may propose the vote of thanks.
Yes. Before that, Dr. Kaveri, you raise your hand. You have any query? Participants, Kaveri. Dr. Kaveri is there? You raise your hand. Hello, are you there? Okay. So, Mr. Prasant Verma, sir, the session on textile is really a good, and the way of presentation is also a good. So we thank you for the nice session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ronakji. Thank you, Bhargavji. Thank you, everyone, organizing team, and thank you all the participants for listening to me for such a long time. So if you have any query, you want any kind of help in developing any product or all, you can reach out to me. My website, I believe, is there in the link which I already shared, and we can have I can take that forward. So I do consult on wearable projects and the products, so we can take it forward if you need anything in terms of textiles or help in that direction. So thanks everybody. Thank you. Namaskaram.
Sure, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir.
I will drop off now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.